Well, clearly it's a more difficult proposition, but it's still a cost to pay for fuel is, and I think anything we can do to bring the cost of owning a vehicle down, it's the right thing to do. Clearly, in an era of higher gas prices, it's more dramatic, but it still makes sense.
How does that play into the 2025 targets? How hard is it going to be to meet if customers aren't buying?
Well, you raise an interesting point. I think there is a fear that, we saw this once before, at least I did. I've been around here long enough to remember the early days of CAFE where there was a real disconnect between society's goals and customers' pocketbook interests. The good thing, though, now is that all of our vehicles are becoming more fuel efficient. Everything from F-Series right on down to our smallest our vehicles. So we're going to be well positioned, and the one thing we can't control, of course, is customer demand.
Phil, how is your new mobility programs? How's it different than OnStar? Well, similar in a subscription?
Well, no. It's very different, and it's free to those who sign up on the Ford Pass, and I think the other thing is, it's important to note this is going to evolve dramatically. This is very early days. I suspect what Ford Pass will look like 2 years from now will be very different than it does today. Lots more offerings, maybe different types of offerings. And we're in a very fluid world now where even the term mobility, it's sort of like, I kind of laugh sometimes because I think of sustainability a few years ago kind of means something different to everybody. I mean, how do you define sustainability? How do you define mobility? And the short answer is we're not sure yet. We've got experiments going everywhere. And the one thing about experiments is some of them will fail, for sure. And the question then is how we deal with failure. If it's the old model where failure means you're going to be shut down and punished, then we won't innovate at all. But if we say to ourselves, what do we learn from this? What went well? And what can we use from this in a next venture? Then I think we're going to be in very good shape. And the whole management team is well aware of that because we talk about it all the time. So, very early days in our mobility quest, and we'll look different. Sorry, Dan.
I'm sorry. Do you worry about it taking your eye off the ball?
No, we have to. Well, we spend a lot of time talking about that. We have to do both. And we will do both. We have to make great cars and trucks today and tomorrow, but we also have to understand that the way people are accessing those vehicles is changing.
A customer can go and order a car?
Well, certainly they can do that, but it's going to be much more than that. It's really a place where they can learn about all the technology and software that's going into all our vehicles, and actually how we're thinking about mobility and how they can access it. It'll be every bit as much as the device that they have and what that can do for them in terms of mobility as it is about ordering a vehicle themselves. Yes, you can order a vehicle there, but if that's all it is, there's no point. It's got to be really an entry point for curious people to dialogue with us about helping them move in a different way around the world.
And that's the configuring the vehicle, the actual ordering to the dealer.
Well, you saw that on there, yeah. But the dealer will be certainly involved.
Does this involve
buying any companies, or is it a partnership strategy?
We don't know. We honestly don't know. The question was whether this is M&A for us or whether this is going to be organic or whether it's partnership. I suspect in time it'll be some of all of that.
The hubs will be designed away from the dealerships, though.
Yes,
they'll be completely separate from the dealerships.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to invest in ride-sharing opportunities?
Well, we've got experiments going in ride-sharing right now in different parts of the world, and it's something we're very interested in. But with all these new things, I think it's critical for us to understand where's the monetization opportunity, where do we partner, what do we have to do proprietarily, and what do we leave alone and let others do. And those are all things we're sorting through as we're going through all these mobility experiments, and we don't have all the answers yet.
Bill, the auto companies have been in talks with NHTSA about doing more on voluntary and safety. Where do you think the industry is now? Are they doing enough to improve safety? Is some sort of voluntary effort necessary?
Are we doing enough, Dave? That's however you answer that. That's a deadly question. But we have a very good relationship with NHTSA, and it's something we're very proud of. And we work hard to establish our credibility with NHTSA, and so. I can't speak to what the rest of the industry is doing. I mean, everybody's got their own issues, but it's important to us that we're seen by NHTSA and by the entire government as a credible partner.
Do you think the regulatory environment is too tough on auto companies now?
Well, it doesn't matter what I think. The reality is, it is what it is, and we have to, we don't spend 1 minute complaining about it. We just spend all our time trying to figure out how do we move forward together.
And do you see Apple or Google or Tesla as a threat? I mean, is Silicon Valley a partner or a threat?
Don't they use the term frenemies out there? And so, look, there's a lot of action in this space. From companies like you mentioned, other software companies, startups. Some of you had CES, the Faraday company show up, and look, that's just the nature of what we do. And in my mind, everybody's a potential partner. And and I think it's wonderful. I mean, the creativity and the energy that's coming into our sector now is unprecedented. And I love it. I mean, to me, it's the most exciting time. We're getting really bright young people who want to come with us on this journey to join our company. It's very cool.
How do you get people to look at Ford when they think about all those things versus the other apps and companies that are all out there already?
Well, Nick, it won't happen overnight. And but I think if we started with Sync, and now that looks fairly prosaic when we look back. But at the time, it was a big deal. And we just keep pushing ahead. And you don't make a reputation overnight. And so I understand this, but this is the long game we're in now. It's something that I'm very concerned about personally is the long-term reputation and business model of the Ford Motor Company. And so, I think in our business and certainly in our industry, there's great pressure on individual companies to make headlines at every event and to announce something. And whether it's CES, whether it's Detroit Auto Show, whether it's Paris. I mean, you go down the list. And I understand that. But to me, that's not terribly interesting. What's much more interesting is taking a step back and saying, are we doing this in a holistic fashion that makes sense? Maybe I could put it a little more clearly. Right now, you've got lots of different silos where innovation is taking place. You've got the powertrain silo. You've got the way people access vehicles through ownership or ride sharing. You've got autonomous driving. A lot of different manufacturers and software companies are putting a lot of work into each silo, as are we. But I think the company that could take a step back or step above and figure out how to stitch it all together in a way that makes real sense for the customer and makes their lives better. I mean, I realize that sounds trite because that was the film, but frankly, that's what drives me every day. And if we can do that, then we will really add value in a way that others can't.
Yeah, and when you're talking about car sharing, things that could reduce sales at a time when sales have never been higher here in the US.
That's the reality of the world we live in. I mean, I gave a TED Talk in 2011 about that. Yeah. I mean, we can wish things were different. Yeah. The reality is our world is changing, and I believe there's great value to our shareholders if we can evolve our business model in a way that recognizes that. There are lots of different revenue streams that are potentially able to be captured in this new world. And so I think our company is going to look very different in, pick a time frame, 10 years than it does today.
I think we have time for maybe like one last question. Somebody that didn't get a chance to ask a question, maybe.
Yeah. Are you a parent? Excuse me? Are you a father?
Oh, yes.
Can you give one big advice for dads? What's website?
Well,
advice for dads?
To be there for your children. I mean, look, no, it's okay. I mean, to me, there's no such thing as quality time because every time you can spend with your child is quality time. And so, I mean, look, I'm probably the last person to give personal advice on things, but since you asked, I'm very proud of my relationship with my children, and I spend as much time with them as I possibly can. And that doesn't change from the time they're an infant to the time that I have a 30-year-old daughter, still like to spend as much time as I can with her.
One more question.
How much will climate change factor in developing of new cars, lighter cars?
Well, we're headed down this road anyway, and whether it's climate change or fuel economy or however you want to approach it, we are headed down a road of using fewer resources, better fuel economy, alternative ways to propel our vehicles, whether it's hydrogen or electric. And so, yeah, I mean, it's something that we take into account every day that we do business.
How much is it going to change the way you build cars? Lighter cars, different? I mean,
well, you're already seeing it. I mean, look at the F-Series. You know, we took 700 pounds out of that by going all aluminum, and so we're going to continue on that path.
Okay, thank you guys. Gotta go.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks. Good to see you. Happy New Year. Thanks.